When I first saw this car a few years ago, I didn't know what it was. It looked very visually striking. I thought maybe it was the latest Aston Martin creation, but who really knew? And then I took a closer look at this car, but I was still confused because if you look around it, there's no lettering of any kind. You don't know what this is. All you see are these very interesting, unique looking badges. So that all added to the mystery of what this was. Obviously these days we know what it is, or maybe most people don't, but car enthusiasts do. It's a Polestar. It's still very rare. And Polestar was originally a high performance racing division. And then over the years, Volvo bought it, and now it's really focused on electric vehicles. Volvo incidentally is owned by Geely, which is a Chinese auto group. But none of that really matters. Ultimately, Polestar is really a great car, but what I really love about it is it's unique in so many ways. It looks different, but then if you look at all of this stuff inside it, there's all these very unique touches that really help the car stand out. The mirrors, of course, are one of the first things you notice that stand out because they're frameless and they move all together. I really like the styling in the back, and Polestar added an even cooler touch with the lighting when you hit the lock button. It has a very futuristic look, which I really enjoy. The car's been around for a few years, but it still really stands out on the road. And I've noticed a lot of people looking at it, primarily because no one's really seen this and people are still largely confused by what this actually is. The unique aspects of the Polestar start on the outside, but they translate into the interior because right away you see a lot of things that are different and make it stand out from other cars out on the road. Definitely from an electric vehicle perspective, but even compared to just standard cars, there's just a lot of cool things about what you see on the inside. What you notice at first is that the materials on the inside are different. They're made of recyclable materials. And Polestar and Volvo are very environmentally conscious, so they're building a lot of these cars out of plastic bottles, things that are thrown away. And I think that's pretty cool. So this Android operating system is really well designed, and it kind of has a phone feel to it. So it's like a bigger version of a phone, and the font size and everything, the way it's laid out, I found it to be really intuitive, and you don't have to figure a bunch of things out before you can start using this. So you have these 4 main menus with drive, assist, charge, and being able to change all of the different aspects of the car, like car status, takes you into different warnings and service, things like that. You can change your locking, your exterior lighting, and all of these different things you can change to this menu. Charging, very simple, shows you how much charge you have left. There's a few driver assistant features here. There's not a lot, obviously nowhere close to a Tesla, but you have lane keeping, adaptive cruise control, collision avoidance, some basics like that. And in drive, you can switch the different modes. You have light, standard, firm, steering feel. You can turn on and off creep mode, one pedal drive. The camera view is pretty good resolution, gives you the bird's eye 360 view. In the menus, you have different applications you can install. This is all Google based, so you have all of the Google Maps and Google applications here. You have Google Assistant, Google Podcasts, News, Apple CarPlay is an option here as well, which was recently added. So you have everything at your disposal here. Then you can get into the manual as well and look through different options and learn more about the car. So I think this is really well designed, and this bottom dash here, just like a phone, if you click on it, it takes you to the main menu. So I think all of this is super well designed and very intuitive to use. In some ways, I prefer it over the Tesla just because it's a little bit simpler and easier, and it feels like a large phone. And the way the Google operating system is integrated into it, it works super well. So let me show you. Hey Google, take me to the nearest Target.
Target, all right.
So you can see how quickly that got pulled up.
Head west.
And the navigation on this car also works really well, which I'll show you. So they've done a really nice job with the overall interface. These bars right here, initially I didn't enjoy them quite as much, but then I got used to it, and these actually end up being armrests when you're driving, so kind of a convenience feature. I don't think that's what they had in mind when they were designing it, but it turned out to be that way. And then one of my favorite aspects is that the volume knob is down here, so it's really easy to access. So not everything is digital and on the screen like the Tesla, which from a driving perspective, I appreciate that. Some of these things that we use commonly, it's just better to have it as knobs and dials and switches. It's easier that way. And there are some odd things with the design as well. For example, the side pockets are kind of small. They don't fit that much. Then there's a cup holder inside the center console, which means what do you do with this? So some of these design elements that Polestar decided on don't make that much sense. And in the front, there's really not that much room. You can maybe fit your charging cable or a bag or two, but it's pretty tight and there's not a lot of usable space in here, which is odd because there is no engine, so what is all the space being used for? Back here, the space isn't bad. You do have room underneath for the charging cable and to store some other things, so that's a good feature. But there is one thing though that's a little bit disappointing. So this is about a 2-year-old car. You'll notice that some of the interior materials are starting to degrade, which for a car that's only 2 years old, it's hard to believe that it's happening. So there might be some corners that Polestar cut, which is disappointing to see, and I hope for future vehicles that's not the case. When you turn on the blinker or the emergency, there's a sound to it that's not like any other car. This is like Volvo or Polestar's own sound, so I'll give you a second to hear it. Of course, the most fun part about this is being able to get on it, and it gets up to speed so quickly, and that's really so much fun. That's the beauty about these electric cars with all this torque and horsepower, is really never gets old. No matter how many times you do it, you just want to keep doing it. And in the modern technological world, when gas-powered engines, manual transmissions, when everything's gone, that's all you have left. And so why not just enjoy it? The overall drivability of this car and the way it handles, how stable and composed it is, all of that are strengths that Polestar has. And it's comparable to what you'd see in a Tesla. The Tesla does have an edge in overall driving characteristics, but not something you'd really notice. The power levels are good. You obviously have all of that instant torque. It's still faster than almost anything else you would drive out there. The not so good things about this car is that the ride is harsher than you'd expect, not quite as comfortable. And there's also a good amount of wind noise and road noise that comes in, more so than a Tesla would, for example. So on the luxury comfort front, there's some more work to do with Polestar, but they were edging towards more sportiness, which they've achieved in performance, because the roots of Polestar are in racing and performance back in the day. It still has more of a normal car feel because you have more of these buttons and everything around here. You still have your big screens and all of your digital interactions. The main dash, the center layout with the map, the resolution is good, and you have all of your information at your fingertips. And then just the overall layout and the feel of the vehicle, all of that is really well thought out and put together. This car is confidence-inspiring around turns and at higher speeds. And day-to-day around town at low speeds, you have your regenerative braking, and the one pedal works really well. The car comes to a complete stop. So you could actually spend your whole day driving it without having to hit the brake, which is cool. And this glass roof up here overall is nice, but if the sun is really beating down on you, which it was yesterday, it can heat up the inside of the car. There's tinting on the roof, so it blocks most of it, but it's not comfortable if it's continuously on top of your head and if it's really hot outside. So it would have been nice to have some kind of a shade or something that you could pull to block the sun. And the question that you might have is it worth to buy a Polestar 2 over a Tesla? I would say no at this point, because the Tesla is still the superior car in a lot of ways, and the Tesla has a lot more technology than the Polestar. But I wouldn't count out Polestar in the future with the 3, 4, whatever the future generations are of Polestar. I think they're really gonna give Tesla a run for the money. A few years from now, Polestar might even be able to unseat Tesla. I'm sure we're gonna see a lot of exciting things from this brand, because the Polestar 2 is a really great start.